Two races left in the Pro Mazda Championship. Season 2 is winding to a close. We're at Silverstone Circuit, the classic variation. We're not going to be going to the post-2010 circuit. We're going to what it was just before. That means we've got the farm straight, we've got the bridge, everything. It's a 5-kilometer, 3.1-mile course. Weather outside, it's 70 degrees and it's sunny. Not something you always hear in the heart of England. 73 degrees on the track, partly cloudy. Okay, it's a little cloudy, but you get what it is. 9-mile-per-hour winds, 15 kilometers per hour. I'm Dylan Coyle, joined alongside Arjuna Kenkipati, and this is going to be a fantastic race. 2 left. That is it. That is all that separates this car from being retired. And I know a lot of people have a lot of sentimental thoughts, Arjuna.
Yeah, and we're seeing these drivers currently compete for that last ever championship. And the man behind the community broadcast, Martin Alnordis, leading the championship. We saw Harley Lewis win last time out. He's second, but he is a little bit far behind. And, you know, Dylan, we were talking about this coming into the race, and both of us thinking that for Martin, he's just got to get to the end of both of these races, keep it cleaner than he did last time at the Nordschleife.
Yep, Martin Arnoldis crashed out of the race at the Nordschleife, coming out of the mini carousel in the second half of the circuit. You see the timer, 2.5 minutes remaining in the qualifying session. Only Mark Cooper and Alessandro Maresta have not yet put a lap in. On the grid right now, Angus Waddle, who I believe is who we're watching right here. Harley Lewis it actually is, and obviously we've got that Carbon Racing, the 3 teammates in the circuit. Are they going to have another win today? Odds are they might be the favorites here, Arjuna.
Yeah, and hopefully I don't mix up some of these teams. I misidentified Ollie Peacock as a Carbon Racing driver last time, but these Carbon Racing drivers definitely had a good run last time. We do see Angus Waddle and David Jarvis 1 and 2 right now, Harley Lewis in 4th. The only driver separating them is Martin Alnordis in the TNT Racing number 5 car.
So for everyone who is not that familiar with the classic circuit, right around here, you would be turning a sharp right, a fast sharp right onto the current day circuit, but instead they make a left and go down the farm straight, make a right in Bridge Corner, which is 13, and then Priory in 14, and then we're back on where everybody is familiar with it, into Brooklands and Lovefield, and the pit lane, which I don't think anyone's going to be using because there's no pits. The tank should be good to the very end. You might have save, but you should be good. It's at the exit of Lovefield and right around when you're going to Woodcote, which is that turn 17, the final one on the circuit. So don't think we're going to see anyone diving down there. But it could potentially be somewhat of a concern in this race. Arjuna, I know you said you saw some of the drivers having to coast and save a bit in the earlier races.
Yeah, and we're here obviously at the historic layout. Dylan, we were talking again before the race and you mentioned that you're not so familiar with this layout, having, you know, been introduced to the circuit a little bit later on. But what we did see is a lot of drivers down that long hanger straight, just hanging back a little bit. And I think that's just because the less fuel you can take at the start of the race, the better position you're going to put yourself in, you know, at the end of the race. You don't have a heavier car and you don't have to worry about, you know, burning fuel. It does require you saving. That's not too hard.
So from what I can see, Angus Waddle might be the final driver to end his lap, but we do have the starting grid right here. Apparently, he has decided to exit it. Angus Waddle is starting on the pole. Nothing to worry about if you're in first. David Jarvis starting alongside him. Martin Arnoldis, could this be the week he basically cements himself as a two-time Pro Mazda winner? It potentially could be. And Hardly Lewis, the winner from last week, he doesn't want to see Arnoldis do well. He starts P4.
Yeah, then you got Andrea Cini. He's going to line up in 5th. Next to him, a fellow Italian, Alessandro Maresta. And then you've got Anne Medema and Gabriel Perez lining up 7th and 8th.
Fabio Berchhold is going to be in P9. He's had a fantastic week going for him right now. In fact, he's got the second most championship points right behind David Jarvis at Silverstone. Starting P10, Pascal Filato, L. Leroy Kopage is in P11, and Jean-Michael Noyed in P12.
And we'll quickly go through the rest of your grid. Ross Addy, Greg Garris, then Levicius Mihescu. I hope I didn't butcher that too badly. Then you got Mark Cooper, and then Robert Escudero be the last car who qualified.
A bit of a smaller grid than I think we have seen at some races. That's because there was a split. This is the top split right here, and these drivers, well, they've been racing together for so long, and to know that this is the final 2 races of Pro Mazda, it's got to be a very odd feeling. I'm sure all of them want to go down as a winner in the final few weeks. And Martin Arnoldis, he is so close to becoming the final ever champion of the Pro Mazda Series. Everybody is gridding up right here. Some will have to start while also having their steering wheel cemented to the right. It's a 15-lap race. You hear the engines revving up. We're about to go green, and we're go! Racing here at Silverstone. A really good jump for Waddle. He gets right to the left into David Jarvis, but Jarvis is going to cut down the left outside, going into the sharp Copes corner. But you know, if you don't have any outside corner, if you have the inside, you basically have it all set for you. Waddle in P1 going into Maggots and Beckett's. Such an interesting left, right, left cornering situation. Look at all those cars just snaking through. This is what everyone should be familiar with. And we're also, just so everybody knows, we're also going to see a lot of drafting. Probably 90% of this track is just having the throttle down the entire way. Oh, you see some swapping of positions in the back, and Waddle gets wide down the inside. At that corner is Jarvis. Here's where you're going to see some positions being swapped as Jarvis has Arnoldis thinking about diving to the inside, but doesn't do it. In the classic circuit, you'd see cars having to slow down a bit here, but out of the club corner, we're going towards Abbey. Turn, that's turn 11. This is where you'd see guys going to the right, but they make a left, make another quick right. It's a little chicane of sorts before they go down the farm straight into Bridge. And to Priori, a pretty clean lap so far for everybody, Arjuna.
Yeah, they managed to get pretty clean early, and then some fighting once they got past the hanger straight. But right now, it is Angus Waddle who leads from Davis Jarvis. So 2 Carbon Racing teammates leading from Martin Arnoldis and Harley Lewis currently in 4th.
Big crash at the back of the pack, trying to see exactly who that was. It's Jean-Michael Noyen. He was collected in a big wreck, and he's taken his car into the pits. That might be race over for him.
Yeah, and let's go and see if we can get a replay right now. Just give us a few seconds. But Dylan, you saw the replay. Can you try and walk us through it?
Well, it just looked like there might have just been a quick spin, as we'll see the replay to get some certainty here. It looked like it was around Luffield, which is it can be a dangerous corner because you hit the throttle too hard, you're really going to lose a bunch of traction. And that's really a lot of Silverstone when you're going through some medium speed corners and you're in high gears. Oh, it just looked like someone got tagged from behind. And obviously that's Jean-Michael Noyen's race over. Some other drivers definitely picked up damage there. But we're back to live pictures, and Angus Waddle still leads. Jarvis in P2, Martin Olnotis in P3. And this is going to, I feel like this is going to be a quick race. We're already near the end of lap 2. Just a 15-lap race. These cars are going around 1 minute 40-second lap times at this circuit. And I think it's an interesting predicament, Arjuna. When you're a driver like Martin Arnoldis, you don't want to race too many races because you don't want to have a chance of sacrificing your points at the end of the week. Remember, it's your best 8 out of 12 results. But they don't have as much practice as some other guys do on the circuit, like Fabio Berchtold.
Yeah, and for those unfamiliar, if you do more than 4 races in a week, iRacing starts to aggregate your, best results. So as long as you only do 4 races in a week, your best result will stand. And if you are Martin, who, 6 times has finished second in this championship, you really want to go out on a high here. You're running in 3rd place right now, a good position to secure some good championship points as you move your way into that final round at Road Atlanta. And I'm sure, so far, Dylan, I think it's been fair to say the draft hasn't been as powerful as maybe we expected, but what we will see next week for sure at Road Atlanta is much more drafting, just like at Mosport.
Mosport was a crazy introduction to this season on RaceSpotTV. I don't know if it's the draft not being as strong, or maybe it is that you want to save a little bit of fuel right here. Is the driver in the worst position Angus Waddle right now? Everyone seems to just be comfortable with sitting in the draft. Maybe in 3 laps times, you're going to start seeing some drivers making some moves down the inside, but I just don't necessarily see what they're actually going to do. I just watched Fabio Berchtold just not decided to stay right behind Ann Medema going down the farm straight. I just think these guys are just trying to deal with the track first, deal with the draft for around 5 or so laps, and I think that's when you're going to see it get very interesting here.
Yeah, and you are seeing right now Fabio Berchtold very defensive, but Gabriel Perez challenging here as they work their way through Luffield. And definitely, Dylan, I think you're right. What we are seeing is, drivers slowly finding their pace. What we are seeing is a little bit of a lead pack starting to develop, 1 through 5, all separated by about 2 seconds. And you got about 1.3 seconds back to Alessandro Maresta, at least this little train that we're following now. So lap 4 out of 15, and we're just getting into the early stages of this sprint race.
Well, Gabriel Perez, he's someone who has been known to be an aggressive driver, so he is looking at making a move on Berchtold quickly. It is a quick race. We're already on lap 4:15, almost a third of the way through, which is pretty incredible, I'd say, Arjuna, especially with last week, a lap being around 6.5 minutes. Now it's only 1 minute and 40 seconds. It feels like a completely different world as you see a pass going around the outside. Oh, man. Well, now it gets interesting with the lead bunch. David Jarvis going down the outside of Waddle. It doesn't work. The winner out of there, well, I don't think it was really anyone. They still hold the same places that they went into that corner with, but you're going to see it get a little more spotty like that as we do continue as this race goes down, as they go through the turn 11-12 chicane into the farm straight. That bridge, oh man, you're at Classic Silverstone when you see that bridge, Arjuna.
Yeah, and what happened there in that attempted pass from David Jarvis? He tried to go down the inside at the exit of the end of the hangar straight in through Stowe. But what we saw is Angus Waddle getting a really good run out of Stowe on that outside line, and that gave him the inside down into club. And that does mean that the status quo remains at the front of your field. But, I think, Dylan, we're going to see that happen quite a bit more. It almost appears as though Angus Waddle has a little bit of front wing damage. I'm not sure where he would have got that from, maybe from hitting the curbs, but you can definitely see in that shot right there.
Wow.
That front wing not looking good.
I'm going to try and find exactly where that happened, but you're right. It does look like there's a bit of damage. I'm not sure exactly where he got it, but I can tell you this. He has definitely gone off-road a few times in this race. He's trying to break up the draft here right now into that fast right-hander of Stowe down the hangar straight. This is where it gets different, like I've said probably every single lap so far. Uh, you know, I don't know exactly where the best passing situation is down this old section. I feel like whenever you have a fast turn, Arjuna, you're not really going to get the best momentum if you're trying to make a move down the outside. That's just not possible. It's going to be a lot easier and a slower turn. So when you almost have these one-lane corners, where can you line up a pass here? I feel like the best place is down the hangar straight. It certainly isn't down the front pit straight here coming out of Woodcote into Copes because of that fast right-hander. You can't go down the outside there. There's just no way to make it stick. So you got to make your decision really before the start-finish line if you're going to make a move down the inside.
Yeah, and what we're seeing is that play out here as the top 7 all remaining in their positions where they started. And you can definitely get a move done, Dylan, through Copse. It just requires a healthy dose of courage, maybe liquid courage, and getting to the inside of the car in front. We haven't really seen the draft working that well for these Pro Mazda cars to do that into Turn 1, but we have seen down the hangar straight in towards Stowe, them getting a great run, and this time around, David Jarvis just that little bit closer. And can he get a good exit out of Maggots and Beckett's here onto the hangar straight?
I wonder how the dirty air is affecting these drivers around some of the faster turns where you do need some more aerodynamic grip, as you see Jarvis trying to go out the outside. But again, that's not really going to work around Stowe. It might work coming down into these slower corners, looking down the outside, hard on the brakes. It's just not going to work. In fact, that train is getting even tighter as Arnoldus goes a little wide. Harley Lewis was looking down the inside. I mean, if you're Lewis, you just want to see Arnoldus make a mistake, but obviously that's all in the sporting regulations, nothing there. Lewis, I don't think he's the kind of driver to make any rash decisions. There's really no one that has made any progress out of the top 6. Gabriel Perez started 8th as gained 1 spot. The biggest mover forward has been Leroy Copage, who is now into P9. Waddle, Jarvis, Arnoldus, Lewis, and Cheney, they have broken away from the rest of the field in the top 5.
Yeah, and, you know, Harley Lewis maybe not going to be too aggressive at this stage of the race, still not, you know, halfway into this 15-lap sprint race, but you know, I'm sure that he's going to be very keen to make it a Carbon Racing 1, 2, and 3, let alone the fact that, you know, that's his main championship rival in front of him. So this is really the fight to keep an eye on. It's Harley Lewis and Martin Alnotis, that TNT Racing driver, a little bit, you know, on his own here. Let's see if maybe the Carbon Racing guys can play a little bit of, you know, gamesmanship and work Harley to the front.
Jarvis is catching up once again, stays within the draft of Waddle, goes down the outside. This could be a little bit better going around the outside at Stowe. He might hold it. He's going to get inside position here at the chicane. Look at who's trying to come through as well. Martin Arnoldus, he's going to back off. And David Jarvis goes into the lead, but overshoots the corner. And down the outside is Waddle, and he is back in the lead. He clears Jarvis.
What great racing we're seeing here. And now Martin Alnotis looking to the inside, down towards Abbey. He has to back off, and look at that defense. Angus Waller going hard, but David Jarvis trying to go hard. Martin Alnotis getting a little bit loose, but they're all still racing cleanly so far, Dylan. But wow, what aggressiveness we're still managing to see at the same time.
Jarvis down the inside, and I think he's going to get it. Oh, getting a little loose is Waddle, and Arnoldus goes to the outside of him at Brooklands and into Luffield. I think it's going to be Jarvis very clearly out in front. Harley Lewis lost some positions. He fell into P5 from P4, and Andrea Cheney is now in P4. It'd be nice to see Cheney come into this front battle. We really haven't seen him at the front that much. You see a big gap between the top 8 and the rest of the field. I think, though, if you're not in this kind of top battle right here, there's no way you can fight up to the front. Alessandro Maresta is in P6. He's at the back end of this battle. But like we said just a bit before, once you got to around lap 5, obviously that was lap 7, you're going to see these drivers be more aggressive. And I think we're going to make sure, or they're going to make sure, that that is not the exception. It is what is expected. Waddle, we'll see how he does in the draft down the hangar straight into Stowe. he has a lot more distance to travel on Jarvis, and Jarvis is able to keep the lead for a second. But going down the inside, blocking the pass down the inside was Jarvis Waddle, getting a really nice line there. And will he get the better run? Yes, he will, and he dives down to the inside. His right tire's on the curbing, and he's going to get back in the lead, but only by half a car length because they're still side by side into turn 11. Into the chicane, Waddle has to let go, but still gets the better line. He's going to get a really good drive out of 12 down the farm straight and into bridge. My word, who's going to get to that apex cleanly? Arnoldus goes a little too deep in. Oh man, Waddle going down the outside. Jarvis cutting him off. I almost feel like Jarvis is holding the entire group up, but his defensive driving, it's going so well. You have to wonder, is the draft really going to come into a much bigger effect in the second half of the race, Arjuna?
Well, I think what we're seeing right now, Dylan, is the fact that these two Carbon Racing drivers are fighting so hard and they're fighting so cleanly. What it's done is really bunch this pack all the way up, as on that outside of Cops, Angus Waddle getting very wide, but there in the shot you can see all the way back to Fabio Berthold, who lies in 8th position. There's less than 2 seconds separating that top 8 right now, Dylan. It is super close, and anything could really happen.
Well, I don't think we've seen top 8 as close as these guys have been all second half of this season long. Martin Arnoldus, a huge run on Angus Waddle, goes down the outside of Copes. Oh, Waddle and Arnoldus almost touch. Arnoldus is still on the track, but it's going to slow both of them down. David Jarvis is the happiest one coming out of there. Andrea Cini going down the inside. Harley Lewis goes deep into the corner, still in the inside position. Where's everyone going to end up down this short straightaway? I think that these guys are giving David Jarvis exactly what he wants. Arnoldus switches to the left, back to the right. Oh, he almost got cut off by Waddle. That could have been race over for both of them.
Yeah, this is getting a little bit dicey at this point, Dylan. But what it does mean is David Jarvis, he's almost managed to break out of the draft range, 1.6 seconds to the good over his teammate. And let's see exactly what happens now. Is it going to be on Angus and Martin to settle down a little bit? Just, close in that gap just a little bit more, get the pressure back onto David out front. But David's had a great week this far. I think, Dylan, you pointed out he's had some of the highest points finishes of any of these drivers in the field.
Yeah, Jarvis has done very well. Has actually, as a matter of fact, he's the best one out of everybody at this circuit. He has 11 more points than Fabio Berthold in second. Jarvis has 132. Berthold has 121. So you can see where that gap kind of lies. It's never a bad idea to work together when you are fighting over P2. The ultimate goal is P1. Right? So if you're fighting over P2, really, what's the point? We're already almost 2/3 of the way into this race, and the draft is so much nicer than when you're just trying to punch your car through some clean air in front of you. You kind of need that slipstream if you're going to catch up. They're already starting to catch up a little bit, but the more they battle, the easier it will be for Jarvis to just run away with this race.
Yeah, 100%. And we talk about swap drafting in the IndyCar on ovals, but, swap drafting is also a thing for these pro Mazdas, and if you can really get a good slingshot out of Maggots and Beckett onto the hanger straight, that does mean that the guy in front can really let off the throttle just a little bit, let you by without losing too much time, and you guys can slowly claw up towards, the leader, in this case, David Jarvis. The gap down to around 1.3 seconds, so about 0.3 of a second shaved off on one lap, as Angus Waddle pushing hard, going a little wide on the exit of Brooklands there.
Waddle has gone wide a lot in this race so far. He's got to really calm down. He and Arnoldus need to work together because they've gotten actually a second gap off of Andrea Cini, who is in his own battle with Harley Lewis, currently in P5. Lewis is right up in the battle. He's got to be hurting for some top podium finishes as this season winds down. Through Maggots, Beckett's, and then this sharp right-hand corner down the hanger straight. It's just way too far of a draft, or way too far to get the draft working. 5 laps left. That's incredible.
Yeah, and what we saw last time around is that Martin Alnordas did a 1:40.172, the fastest lap of this race yet. The leader, David Jarvis, a 1:45.06, so about 0.3 of a second, like we were saying. But it does rely on Angus Waddle also keeping that pace up. Angus only gained about 0.2 of a second, in fact, a little bit less than 0.2, so it's going to be close here to the end, Dylan. The closer you get, the stronger the draft is, but you know, if you're only gaining 0.3 of a second this far back, it does mean that you're going to get close and still have a lot of work to do with maybe only one lap to go.
I think they're playing nice right now, and if my eyes don't deceive me, I feel like the gap has fallen a couple tenths. The last time they crossed the straight, it was 1.4 seconds. The time before that, it was 1.5. So they only gained a tenth on the last lap as Waddle again goes really wide and into the gravel trap with his right side tires. Thankfully, it doesn't really trap him as much as it's intended to. But I feel like the gap is starting to come down. Will it come down quick enough? If it doesn't, as we see it update right now, it's 1.2 seconds. So it's fallen 0.2. If they keep it going that way with 5 or 4 laps to go, it's not going to be enough. So they're really going to have to play nice. If they get to the final lap, I'm sure you can guarantee Martin Arnoldis might make a move down the inside, but he doesn't have to. Remember that. He doesn't have to. This is a great position for him to be in. I don't think that there's going to be any sort of move as Waddle goes to the very left-hand side of the hangar straight in to Stowe, and still Arnoldis is playing kindly. I think they both understand what is at stake here. It's that first place position. I can't believe how quickly this race is going by. I mean, what? It's only been 21 minutes and we're already at 3.5 laps left?
Yeah, well, definitely a nice change of pace from, I don't want to say Richmond was too long, but, the cautions definitely hurt at Richmond, whereas here, when you're going flat out for 15 laps, it really does fly by. But right now, what I'm seeing, Dylan, is David Jarvis appears to have the pace to hold off these drivers behind. They're not closing fast enough to have enough time to get a move done. They're going to have maybe 1 lap at the most if they're lucky to get a move done, and I think the best place will be on that hangar straight. But again, you need to be close enough once you get there to get the move done.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that the draft is not nearly as strong as we all thought it would be. I wonder if that is because of the dirty air on curves that are fast, the ones that really require some aerodynamic grip as they cross the line. They only gain 0.04 of a second that lap. That is, I don't know if your math is, going to be straight, but that's not nearly enough.
No, not nearly enough, and we've got 3 laps to go this time around, and so for David Jarvis, if he can hold on and keep this pace up, it's going to be another win this season for him, and continuing the good week he's had, this week so far. And Dylan, iRacing just announced the next season is going to be what they're calling a leap season, 1 extra week added to the calendar to just move the calendar back to where iRacing intends it to be. I think some of these drivers are going to have wished that the leap season would have been this year, so they would have got one more opportunity to have a race with these cars and say goodbye. I know for someone like David, he's going to hopefully get the win here this time around, and that's going to give him a lot of confidence going into Road Atlanta next week.
I'll tell you what, Arjuna, I'd love to see that gap show up here because I feel like it's cut down just a little bit. Jarvis is not as far away at the end of that lap. Yes, it's under a second. So that's 0.3. Might have been a mistake from Jarvis, but we could have a battle yet for P1 as they go through the final few curves of lap 13. There's going to be 2 laps to go here. Jarvis is losing some steam. I wonder if that's going to be even faster, a faster rate that it's going to drop when the draft does come into effect going down the hangar straight this next lap. They have to get close enough this lap to have any shot of passing Jarvis for the win in lap 15.
Well, David Jarvis, his pace has been consistent. In fact, that last lap, his fastest lap of the race at a 1:44.35. However, the issue, Angus Waddle, his Carbon Racing teammate in the number 1 car, a 1:40.018, so 0.4 of a second quicker. And here he is, he's got the draft, and he smells blood. He's going to want to try and get that place back from his teammate.
Oh, man. Oh, man. I think we're going to see one last go next lap. It could come this lap because they are so close. Jarvis has lost a bunch of steam. I think Waddle, if he's able to make no mistakes, and even if he doesn't get P1, I think he's pretty well solidified for P2 because Arnoldus has fallen back a little bit. It's not necessarily bad for him because he still wants to get some good points here. But look at that. Jarvis is having to deal with Waddle right on his gearbox. Arjuna, this last lap is going to be a barnstormer.
Yeah, we're going to have the battle between these two Carbon Racing teammates, and we also saw their other Carbon Racing teammate, Harley Lewis. He's in 5th right now. He's right on the rear wing of Andrea Cini, trying to get 4th place. But here we go, coming around Luffield for the penultimate time. It is going to be David Jarvis leading across the stripe. Can he hold on with 1 lap to go?
1 lap to go. The draft, it's going to come into play down the inside of Copes. Oh, they almost take each other out, but going way off track is Jarvis. Waddle almost pushed him completely out of contention, but instead it's only helped Jarvis quite a bit. I don't think that Jarvis knew Waddle would make a daring attempt down the inside of Copes, but nonetheless, out of turn 5 into Chapel and down the hangar straight. I don't know if that's going to cost Waddle the chance at this win. It's a very fair difference between the two drivers right now as they head into Stowe, the 7th turn of this lap of this circuit. Waddle gets a very strong apex, but went in maybe a little too early and cut back on the outside a bit too much. Jarvis is defending as well as he can. Waddle gets a little bit of his tires into the grass. Coming out of club, it's a fast corner, a lot of steam. I think you might see a pass attempt down the inside into turns 11 and 12. Down the chicane, he's not close enough, but he hits the back of Jarvis. Jarvis is pushed off the track, into the gravel, into the grass, and into 2nd place. Oh, that is not at all what Waddle wanted to do. Jarvis falls back to P3, falls back to P4. Oh my goodness, Waddle is just a few corners away from winning this one. Arnoldus is in P2, Andrea Cini gets himself into P3, and Lewis is going into P4, but he hits Jarvis. Jarvis almost flips. He is done. He has fallen back to P9. It's Angus Waddle who wins this race in controversial fashion. Arjuna, I cannot imagine a worse scenario for the driver that is why can't I remember David Jarvis' name? But Jarvis just fell right out of contention from getting shunted twice. Wow.
Yeah, and you want to know the worst part about that situation, Dylan? Both contacts with Carbon Racing teammates. And so I think there's going to be a few angry words shared in their whatever forum that they use for communication. Unfortunately, you know, if I'm David, I'm going to be fairly unhappy with Angus getting a bit too deep on the brakes there, going into just before the bridge complex. That's what really set off the entire, you know, chain of events that led to him plummeting down to 7th, and that's where he will finish.
Yeah, not at all a good end to this race that had so much potential for a clean finish. That's not what happened. Wow, we're going to have a lot to talk about, but first, we've got to show the finishing positions of all 17 drivers here at the Classic Silverstone circuit. Waddle, well, he gets the win. I wonder if there will be maybe a complaint put in, and could that win be taken away? Who knows? Martin Arnoldus finishes 0.2 of a second down on Waddle for P2, and Andrea Cini gets that final podium spot. Harley Lewis, Alessandro Maresta, Fabio Berchhold, David Jarvis, and Medema, Gabriel Perez, and Leroy Copage round out your top 10. And going back to the rest of the finishers, Filato, 14 seconds behind. Rosati, another PA driver. Good job to see another Pennsylvania boy here. 18 seconds back at first. Mark Cooper, Lives Mechashu, we're going to go with that, is in P14. Greg Garis in 15. Robert Escudero is in P16, and Jean-Michael Nguyen, who wrecked out at the beginning of the race, and I guess he did stay for a few more extra laps. Well, he finishes dead last, P17. Oh, we've got a lot to talk to, but first we're going to bring you some messages from iRacing. What a great race. What a controversial ending. We'll be right back on RaceSpotTV.
We are back at North Wilkesboro, North Carolina, where the field is rolling out for the start of today's 400-lap race on this .625-mile racetrack. And just as the field comes all around turn number 4, the sunshine peeks through, helping warm things here. Bill Elliott leads him down. Benny Parsons on the outside. The green flag flies, and the first Union 400 Winston Cup race from North Wilkesboro is underway. Everybody nicely through turns number 1 and 2 as Bill Elliott has the lead, and Dale Earnhardt has jumped into second position, followed by Benny Parsons and Bobby Allison. Oh, here we go. It's just about to go away. They both coming out of turn 4. Earnhardt gets the lead. We had just heard from our spotters that Neil Ryan. Dale Earnhardt is on his last lap. This will be his 24th career win. Dale Earnhardt wins the first Union 400 at North Wilkesboro.
Welcome back to RaceSpotTV. We're at the Silverstone Classic Circuit for the penultimate round of the final ever Pro Mazda Championship season here on iRacing. Dylan Coyle joined alongside Arjuna Kinkipati, and oh boy, that was a controversial finish. A way that I don't think anyone would want to win the race. I'm sure Angus Waddle's not feeling that happy right now, and David Jarvis obviously fell back to still finished up in the top 10, but still he was so close to winning the race. We do have the P2 finisher and right on the cusp of winning his second championship, Martin Arnoldus. Martin, congrats on a great drive today. What happened from your perspective?
I don't know what I saw in front of me, but it was just, I cannot say the word in America, of course. It's with an F word, crazy. It was, they were left, right, left, right. I need to hold back because it was really dangerous. And Harley was behind me. So it's just, you think you can't race for the victory because in your back mind, you have always the thoughts about the championship, the points, and it's really hard to fight for victory. But I tried one time at Angus, but he thought, I think, he's going for the championship. I hold my throttle and I had to avoid a few times, and people behind me had to avoid me. So it was a really crazy race.
Yeah, and you were definitely more conservative, I think, than we've seen you in past weeks. You're so close to that second championship. What will it mean if you do hold on to this points lead you have in the final round of the season? What will it mean to win the final ever Pro Mazda Championship?
First, of course, the final championship. Goodbye to the car. I was really consistent this season. So after week six, I decided, okay, I go for it. And then I had the first broadcast with Angus too in Mid Ohio. That was the first good start of it, a good week. And Sandward, Angus was too good, but then things comes to me because everyone crashing. Nordschleifer had put too much pressure on myself. I wanted too badly. I thought I was quicker than anyone, but other people were quicker than me. And this, I was just focused on myself and focused on my lap times, and it was going very well this week. So I think I win the championship because the soft next week won't be that high to lose the championship. So I'm
Yeah,
happy with it.
consistency has been key for you in the second half of this season, at least. And do you feel like there was a problem? I was saying it on the broadcast, not quite sure from a driver's perspective. Do you feel like the draft was not as powerful as it could have been, perhaps because of some aerodynamic dirty air that might have been impacting drivers in the fast corners?
Yeah, definitely. The last time we were here with the broadcast, I won, and Julian was making the pace, and he was really quick, and it was not possible to make a good pass on him. And this time, you can follow, but if everyone has a draft, you can't pass, and so the draft is not that important here. But you can still be in the game if you follow the lead pack, and you're losing downforce in turn one, and you lose a little bit in Maggots and Baggots. So it's just really hard to pass here, but it is possible. Yep.
Well, it's probably more possible than having to get into a position that Angus Waddle found himself in at the very last few corners of this race. But congrats on the P2. Congrats on the almost secure championship. Is there anyone you want to thank for that one?
Yeah, I feel sorry for Angus and David. First place, I want to thank your carbon team, my own team, TNT Racing. I want to thank you guys for all the footage you create, and I can use that for the final clip. And I want to thank all the promoters, drivers who showed up today. It is maybe the only split this week, so the broadcast helps to get people on board.
Awesome. We did have 34 total drivers, 17 in both splits. But Martin, congratulations. And Arjuna, your final thoughts on a controversial penultimate finish to the Pro Mazda Championship.
Yeah, definitely controversial, but again, if I'm in that carbon racing team forum, team Discord, whatever it happens to be, I think there might be a little bit of some words exchanged today, but I think, teammates, you always have to, especially in sim racing, I find you find yourself a group of friends first and foremost that you then go racing with. That's definitely how I've always approached sim racing, and so I know Angus Waddle is probably trying to apologize profusely to David Jarvis, but at the same time, I'm sure David, while feeling very bad for himself, especially given how strong he looked in this race, he will forgive his teammate at some point. Maybe next week. Obviously, we're going to Road Atlanta for the final ever race for this car. Maybe we'll see those carbon racing teammates, battle it out on track once again, and maybe we'll see this incident play itself out once again.
I wonder if Arnoldus has confirmed the championship at the end of this week. I wonder if he'll just go no holds barred, try to get into P1 at Road Atlanta, but that is something we will have to wait and see. 1 week time, the final round of Pro Mazda Racing here on iRacing. Just to let everybody know that Friday night primetime will be showing the IMSA Sports Car Championship on the iRacing Esports Network. Connery Maddock and Ryan Walker will be on the comms for that race. Now, Arjuna, I know you've been dying to talk about the busy weekend schedule, including some really intriguing events on RaceSpot this weekend.
Yeah, it seems like, in these times right now, RaceSpotTV has a big weekend every weekend. But this Saturday, tomorrow, going to be very crazy. It starts off over on the 24 Hours Series YouTube page, in the Creventic page would be the better way to put it, but 12 hours of Monza featuring 55 real-world TCR, GT3s, GT4s, so there's going to be a lot of intrigue there. We also have the Porsche Esports Super Cup and the Porsche Sprint Challenge as the support series. And then the final event live on iRacing YouTube will be the Better Half Invitational featuring the IndyCar wives and girlfriends, a lot of the drivers who competed in this iRacing IndyCar Invitational, handing over the sim rig keys to the better halves, and that should be a very interesting event to witness.
Yes, that will. I know that for a fact that my girlfriend, Maddie Stillman, I hope she enjoys the shout out. She actually is not bad at dirt rally. She tried it once and really impressed me. And I got better times than her, but she might be a natural learner. I might have to watch out. But nonetheless, that was the quickest broadcast of the season. We're so happy that you could all join us for a really intriguing end to the English portion of this entire Pro Mazda calendar. One last race. It's in the United States, Road Atlanta in Georgia. People behind this broadcast, myself, Dylan Goyle, and Arjuna Kankipati, doing both behind-the-scenes work and commentary. As always, well done on those aspects. Well, thank you again for tuning in to RaceSpotTV. One final week, one final race in the Pro Mazda Championship at Road Atlanta next Friday, same time. We hope you're there. Good night and good racing.
We'll be right back.